Hey guys, Youngblood with you. Today I wanted to run through all of what you can expect out of 3.0 now that we have the production schedule. Now this video is focused on 3.0 and tomorrow I'm going to have another one covering the production schedule for the remainder of this year in a whole lot more detail. So if you don't see something mentioned here, just hang tight, there's going to be a lot more information tomorrow. Now 3.0 is a big jump in tech for the game, which is why we're moving from the 2 dot releases to the 3 dot releases. And that brings many more gameplay options, more locations, and much larger scale in general based on some underlying tech powering all of it. So let's go ahead and run through that list. Now, as far as locations are concerned, we're definitely getting 3 new spots to check out, with those being Crusader's 3 moons. Yela is the moon we're probably most familiar with from visiting their asteroid field, and now it's going to be a landable location, and it's a really inhospitable place. It's ice cold, so bad that landing and exiting without a suitable suit would probably kill you instantaneously. The terrain is brutal, with huge crevices and canyons that are all over the surface that you could fall into if you're not paying attention, or maybe you're just moving a little bit too quickly. Now, based on these canyons and landscapes, though, there are many caves that you can go in and explore, and it's supposed to be strangely beautiful. On the surface, though, there are these cryovolcanoes, which can erupt sporadically and spell trouble for you if you're flying a little bit too low, so make sure you're keeping an eye out on what's on the horizon. Stellan is basically the complete opposite to Yela. It's very hot, with a volcanic activity present just about everywhere. You're not going to see these huge eruptions with magma and lava or anything like that, but there are these thermal geysers that are all over the surface that that can basically destroy vehicles because they're very powerful. These geysers are also spewing out corrosive gas clouds that make visibility an issue and can cause damage to ships and get people in trouble if you're not prepared. Now, Chris stated in his letter that this moon itself is big enough that it's going to take 4.5 hours to travel in a straight line across the planet, which is crazy. And finally, Daymar is the last moon, being the most scenic and hospitable. It's a mountain-covered moon that is relatively warm in some areas, but has this very cold locations and deep crevices. Travel here is supposed to be challenging on a land vehicle thanks to thick fog and loose dirt, so something like a dragonfly that actually hovers above the surface is probably going to suit you better than something like a gray cat or an Ursa would. There are also lightning storms that pop up, so keep an eye out on the weather so you don't end up getting nailed on foot or to your ship, and who knows what sort of damage that would cause. Now, these moons have, more than just terrain to check out, as we're expecting to have surface outposts completed for 3.0 release that you can actually visit and explore. And we've seen these being developed, and they're pretty far along, so they should be very cool to see. These are the modular bases on surfaces of planets and moons that are now going to integrate with the mission system, like the new crash site mission. And as we saw on Around the Verse, these locations are going to start showing wear and tear based on the environment and end up having a lot of work done with the new feat system, so they're actually balanced and aren't clipping through the terrain. One other landing site that's labeled as a stretch goal is Delamar, and the landing site of Levski on that location. Now, it's slated to be done in early June, but seeing as it's not completed yet, it's hard to promise that at this point. Now, I think we've seen some progress on this location going back over a year, so I think it's going to make it in, but we're going to have to wait and see. Now, outside of the official landing zones and locations and planets, there's going to be a few new places to explore, including more derelict ships being added around the system to give more places for you to go check out and goods to find, as well as full-on debris fields that are going to give you salvagers and treasure hunters something to dig through. Now, from a gameplay perspective, mission givers like Miles Eckert that we saw on Levski in the Gamescom demo are going to be present, opening up different options for you to find and do things. The mission manager map on the MobiGlass is still going to help you track and present you with some options that you can play with, but you're not fully restricted to that either. Now, past gameplay, there was a lot of work done to the back end that's going to be worth mentioning, including the render target factor that's now saving up to half of the memory usage. Some new shadowing that's put into place with the new lighting systems that are working to make things more dynamic, including large-scale lighting for shadows casted by mountains and much larger objects on a planetary scale. On the back end, we see that the whole area has been converted to object containers, meaning that only rendering and streaming is being done based on what's necessary to you as the player, which improves performance for everybody. And the mega map that was proved in the single and multiplayer environments are now going to be in place for Crusader in the persisting universe, which significantly lowers the loading times and the transitions to new locations. Item System 2.0 is continuing to progress on ships, and we see power plant, shield, the heat and power system, and coolers all being improved. They're more modular, and they're ready for full integration to the new system. From a design perspective, the solar system editor is now ready. It is what the developers are currently using to create and work on a large scale efficiently, allowing them to easily and quickly lay out the entire solar system and all the objects inside, including planetary bodies, points of interest, and stations. From a performance and networking side, they've worked to make geometry and textures much more efficient, which should really help with the overall performance that we can all feel. And it streamlines that development process because it shares assets across different entities. We also see some new code being implemented, including the base subsumption moving in, which supports the actions of all AI, missions, and logic for your interactions with other non-player characters. In a big step, they got planetary physics grids in place, which allows for planetary bodies to orbit through the system and around each other, as well as rotating on an axis, which should provide you with some day-night cycles, as well as interesting approaches to locations that you know about. New work has been done on the functionality of the MFDs as part of Item System 2.0, which includes integration between your visor and your ship's HUDs, and we get some improvements to the landing IFCS safeties, which is great because it's a little bit borked at the moment when you try and land using the automated system. The art team's finished up some work, and we get some new assets in 3.0, including 2 new armor sets, being the Heavy Marine Armor and the Explorer Spacesuit. Now, they've implemented a field of view slider, which many of you are going to appreciate. I'm one of those many, which is going to allow you to change how you view the universe. And as part of that, the heads-up displays, the visors, the helmets, they've all been adjusted accordingly to handle the preference setting that you put in place. We also find out that player interaction mode is coming into place, which should allow you to interact with the ship functions as well as items in just a much more complete and intuitive way. So that's a lot. And we didn't even get to mention things like mining making its way in, or much about new gameplay mechanics like cargo from the design post. They really didn't talk about it much. But Roberts in his letter stated that we can shop at kiosks, we can manage cargo, and that's going to open up careers like trading, hauler, pirate, escorts, and more. So I think specifics on what we're going to actually be getting in 3.0 when it comes to all of that is still a little bit to be determined. But for the time being, with new locations, cargo being in place, and all the implications that has, and dynamic missions as part of subsumption, we're really set up for a lot of really fun gameplay while they get back to giving us the rest. So I've got a follow-up video, like I said, that comes out tomorrow, and it's covering the timeline until the end of the year and a little bit beyond. And I'm going to cover a lot of detail on what's to come. So stay tuned for that. If you have questions on this, put them in the comments. Otherwise, stay hyped. 3.0 is on the way, scheduled to be here by the end of June, with a PTU coming before that, and Evocati starting around June 5th, assuming they hit all of their deadlines. So it's right around the corner. So if you have questions, like I said, put them in the comments. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Take care.